Write numerical expressions to represent the volume in two different ways and explain what each reveals. So in part A, we need two different ways to write the volume. In the first one, we can do length times width times height, because that is the formula for a rectangular prism. But before we write it out, we should probably change these all to improper fractions because we're going to have to do it anyway. So 10 and a half. 10 times 2 is 20, plus 1 more makes 21, and we keep the denominator. 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 more is 5, and keep the denominator. So we have 21 over 2 times 5 over 3 times 6, which we can put over 1. And this represents the length times width times height version of the volume. But we could also do the base area times height version of the volume. If we did base area times height, we would multiply those first two fractions together. So 2 times 3 on the bottom gives us 6, and 21 times 5 gives us, well, actually we can divide a piece out. 3 goes into 21 7 times. So 7 times 5 is 35 over 2. And then the height is still 6 over 1. So that represents both versions of the volume formula. In part B, it says to determine the volume of the rectangular prism. So we're going to actually multiply it out and figure out what we get. 2 goes into 6 3 times. And 35 times 3. 35 plus 35 is 70, plus another 35 is 105. In your book it says it was measured in inches, so it's inches cubed. Moving on to question 5. Question 5 says, an aquarium in the shape of a rectangular prism, so just like the problem before, same type of shape, has the following dimensions. The length is 50 centimeters, the width is 25 and a half, and the height is 30 and a half. Write a numerical expression to represent the volume in two different ways and explain what each represents. We're going to do the exact same thing. Let's start by changing these to improper fractions. 25 times 2 is 50, plus 1 more is 51 over 2. 30 times 2 is 60, plus 1 is 61 over 2. All right, so we have the first one, which is length times width times height. Or we can do, I need to give myself some more space. Or we can do the base area times height version. To do that, we could divide out the 2, which leaves us with 25 over 1. And 25 times 51 is 1,275 over 1 times 61 over 2. So these two go together and these two go together. This first fraction represents the length, the width, the height. And in this one, this represents the base area and the height. In part B, it says, determine the volume of the rectangular prism. So we are going to multiply those two things together. Unfortunately, 1,275 is odd, so 2 can't go into it, which means we just have to multiply those funky numbers together. I'm going to do it over here on the other side. 1 times 5 is 5, 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. Then we need a place value spacer. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 3 more is 45. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 more makes 7. All right, so our volume is 77,775 over 2 centimeters cubed.